Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're just starting out in film photography and you're not quite sure what camera to go for, no doubt you're going to go online and search best camera for film photography, and you'll be presented with the usual suspects like the Canon AE1, Nikon FE, Nikon F2, Nikon F3, Pentax K1000, the Olympus OM series. Great cameras, but they do come in at a price, and more than likely you'll come across some of these old beauties behind me, and more than likely you'll look at them and say to yourself, I don't fancy any of them. They look like they're not going to work at all. And when I first started getting into film photography, the first camera that I got was this Nikon F90X. Fantastic camera. It's got a meter inside. It's got all the bells and whistles that you'd expect from a DSLR, apart from a sensor. Sigma lens that I got with it as well, and I went off and started shooting loads with this camera. I absolutely loved it. The only thing that I didn't realise was the ISO didn't work the same way as the DSLR, so I was messing up some of my images, but you know, you live and learn. Didn't take me long to realise that the film was controlling the speed. So I was really happy poodling along with this camera until one day a friend of mine gave me his old Braun Paxette camera, 35mm camera from the 1960s, I believe this was from. And I can remember getting this and looking at it and thinking to myself, blimey, surely that's not going to produce decent images, you know? So it pretty much sat on the side for quite some time before one day I picked it up and thought, let's have a go and see how it works. Which brings me onto this camera here. This is the Zeiss Ikon Contina, which was kindly sent to me by Legg over at silverprint.co.uk. The amount of times I've said Netto doing this video is ridiculous. Zeiss Ikon Net. This is the Zeiss Ikon Contina. The Zeiss Ikon Net. So this is the Zeiss Ikon Contina 35mm camera, and these were really popular back in the 50s. It's a fully manual 35mm camera from the late 1950s. I think it's the late 1950s. It's around that time anyway. It's bloody old, whatever. You might look at these, if you're looking at cameras online, if you want to get into film photography, like I said, you might look at these sort of cameras and go, you know, brush them off and go, they're never going to work. I wouldn't want to be seen dead with one of those things. They work really great, and they're nowhere near as expensive as all the usual suspects. I think you can pick these up in charity shops relatively inexpensive, and also online these sort of cameras are coming in at, you know, less than 50 quid. Fantastic little cameras, great little lenses, unobtrusive if you want to get into street photography, much more unobtrusive than say something like this where you're going to walk around and people might feel a little bit threatened as, you know, why you're taking such professional photographs on the streets. I don't know. But with this little tiny camera, you can just take a picture of whatever coming towards you. People ain't really going to argue with you. If you turn around and say, I've just got this out of a charity shop, mate, up the road, just seeing if it works. Look, it's an old film camera from the 1950s. Smile. They'll probably laugh at you. The only thing is sometimes the shutter speeds on the slower end of the scale, the 1 second, the half a second, the quarter of a second, can be a little bit touch and go whether they work. But once you start getting into the 60ths, 125ths, this one 300, they seem to work really well. And I've carried this camera around with me for the last couple of weeks, shooting a few rolls, wherever I've been, just taking a few snapshots. I'll show you some of those pictures now. So there's no looking through the lens focusing. It is a viewfinder. There's a little tiny window there you look through, so you kind of guesstimate in your composition. There's no light meter inside. There's no rangefinder either, so you've got a distance scale on the lens, so you have to set roughly where your subject's going to be, or use a rangefinder on top, a little tiny adapter on top to find your focusing. So you've got to be pretty, you know, au fait with photography before you run out and buy one of these cameras. If you're new to photography, these might not be best for you, but if you have You know, if you're pretty mustard and clean cut with your photography, you know what you're doing. These are fantastic little cameras to get into film photography. Like I said, inexpensive. And these cameras have all got lots of different lenses and shutters. I get a little bit confused myself sometimes, but this one's got a Pronto SVS shutter. And if we look on it, it goes from the speeds of bulb mode all the way to 300th of a second. And the apertures range from 3.5 to f22. They are coupled as well on this one, which I haven't got on any of my other cameras, I don't think so. This one's coupled, so you set your shutter speed and your aperture, and as you turn to change your exposure, the aperture and shutter speed are coupled together. So if I want to go from 1/8 of a second to f8 to f11, it will change it to 1/4 of a second to keep the exposure. You can undo that little tiny button there, you press that, and you can singly change your aperture or your shutter speed. And that's pretty cool if you're using your EV scale, because on the side here you've also got your EV scale as well. I don't use that, but some people do. But using these cameras on the street are real simple, because you're not going to be worrying about focusing and all that. You set your focus on the distance scale on the lens. So if you say to yourself, I want all my subjects to fall within around 6 or 7 or 8 feet, you just dial that into the lens and wait for your subjects to fall into your zone and then take the photograph. So it's pretty quick, you know, off the hip shooting, if you like, for street photography. So you've seen some of the photographs that I've been taking recently. There's a scooter rally on this weekend. All the old mods have come over on their scooters and they're giving it large all around the island, all noisy little smelly scooters, not mopeds, scooters. And so I'm going to take this out and try and get some photographs of some of these mods, try and get some characters going. Come with me and we'll see what we get. I'll show you the images. I'm using Kodak T-Max 400 and it's a nice sunny day. On your smile. But that sounds better. And inside is where obviously we load the film. I've got a film in already. I think I've just wasted some of it. I didn't realise I was filming there. So I'm down here at Sandown Airport with the scooter rally, and here's the camera here. I've got the rest of that roll inside. I forgot I had a roll of film in there, and as I was clicking away demonstrating it, all of a sudden I opened it up and went, oh shit, I had a roll of film in there. Lucky none of it was exposed, so I've got about half of it left. And I've got a couple more rolls of T-Max 400. So I'm going to mill around here. You can see all the scooters behind me. People are still coming in. I'm going to mill around here and see what I can get. Take pictures of some of the lads with their bikes. And I'll show you why this camera is pretty good for this sort of photography. Nice and light, nice and compact. And once I've set my focusing zone, which I'm going to stick with all day long, and my metering as well, as long as the light don't change, which I don't think it might go in and out of the clouds a little bit, I don't know, but I can always just go over one stop or under one stop, whatever I want to do if the light changes. But I'm just going to meter up once and then go around and take my pictures. So what I need to do is just to first of all get it in my head what sort of range I want to shoot from. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing yet. I'll put the GoPro on top of the camera so you guys can see the action as I'm taking the photographs, and I'll show you the photographs as we go along. So it reckons f16 1/25th of a second, so that's what I'm going to shoot while the sun is like this. And we'll start off at a range of around about 5 feet, and that's giving me a total range of anything just over 3 feet to 9 feet. 5 feet will be nice and sharp in focus, so let's go around and try and get that. It's literally no fuss photography, because I've set my zone already at 5 feet. I'm just looking for subjects that are within that range, and I can just advance and click away. I don't have to worry about, you know, sitting there wasting time focusing. So if I want to wait for any action that's in that zone, I can just wait for it to happen and then click the camera. The last thing on my mind is focusing, because I've already got it dialed in. And also think with these sort of cameras, people, like I said, they don't feel intimidated at all. You know, it's not a threatening looking camera. In fact, it looks more like a toy. People, it probably fits in this era as well, you know. I've just done this rest of that film. Let's put another roll in, and this time I'm going to change the zone. I'm going to try and get close up on these bikes, and the closest distance is 3 feet, so I'm going to try and guesstimate 3 feet. See how that works. Oh, I'll leave the leader out as well. I don't take the film right into the canister. I can reuse this film for bulk loading. Also, snip that off, it makes it a little bit easier to load on the reel when I get back to develop. So they come out all right, didn't they? Blimey, for that sort, you know, for 1950s camera, it does amaze me that these things still work. Obviously, you know, we know that they're a camera with an hole in and a lens and a film at the back. We know that, but it amazes me that these cameras are still around for us to pick up and use. You know, some of them have been really looked after over the years. Some of them ain't not so much, and maybe they still work if you give them a little service. But then the servicing might cost much more than the camera. It might be worth going around and trying to find one that's really in good condition. And lucky enough, that Zeiss Ikon Contina is in good condition and it works perfectly. So I've already chosen one particular photograph that I liked, which was the hat sitting on top of the bike or the scooter. I quite like that shot, so I'm going to make a print of that now. I've got everything set up ready to go. I'm going to be using Ilford's multi-grade deluxe paper on a big print as well, so I'm going to make a larger print of it, not use all this paper, but kind of crop the image inside this 12x16. Got this for some test strips. I'll show you the negative now. So these are the negs here on the light box. They are slightly overexposed. The light meter gave me a reading of f16 at 1/25 of a second. A 400 speed film, really you'd think about 300 or you know, if you look at the Sunny 16 or maybe 400 of a second, that camera only goes up to 300. But I went with the light meter, and these films have got bags of latitude anyway, so a little bit of overexposure doesn't matter. And these are the ones, these two negatives here that I liked. I've got two of the same image because one, I was a little bit closer than I should have been, I realised, and I pulled back and took a second picture, and I'm glad I did. So I just like, kind of like this old looking hat on the bike. So that's the negative that I'm going to make a print of now. So in goes the negative on the neg carrier. Like so, and stick it inside me enlarger, do a couple of test strips and then make a print. So here it is now on the easel, on the baseboard of the enlarger. It's quite a tricky one to print. You've got a black helmet, a black tyre and a white bike with sunlight coming down on this white area here. You can see all the dark areas. Well, they're the parts that are bright in the image, and like I said, it is a little bit overexposed, but that's no problem. I can use a contrast 0 filter to lower the contrast, let the enlarger run. I've tested it for about 40 seconds and should get a nice little print. Oh, nice little print, it's quite big, but I need to burn in these areas here a little bit with my hands. So it's kind of making shapes like this to cover the light and just start burning in some of these bright areas. I'll show you what I mean. Turn it off, the red light, you can see it a bit better now. And there you go, just start burning in that area there for a little bit. Like so. And then this area in particular, down here on the tread board of the scooter, I really want to get that. Try and burn it in as much as I can. And it goes into the developer. You can see the image starting to come through now. So I'll get this one stop fixed and and I'll show you guys what this print looks like. And there it is, all fixed, washed, ready to frame at some point. I'm going to keep that. I actually quite like it. It's come out nice. I love the bike. It just looked really old and rustic, but I think the helmet on the top with this tyre in the background, it just kind of worked. You can see what I'm saying about composition. If this was through the lens where I could actually nail my composition, I would have got the top of that helmet in, but you can see, you know, it is a little bit touch and go to composition, but I was quite close. That was about 4 feet away. And that one worked out really well. It's a warm day. I'm sweating buckets in here in this dark room. I've got a towel over there. I'll just keep wiping my head. There's the print that I just made. I'm quite happy with it. That's quite a nice one to be framed. You know, you can be as picky as you like with prints at the end of the day if you like it. That's the main thing. I go in hotels, I see prints all over the walls everywhere, and you know, they look quite nice, the compositions and the subjects. When you get real close, you can just think to yourself, oh, a little bit of burning here and there. What about old toffee that is. If you like the print, you like it. I quite like this one, so that one's going to get framed at some point and put in my collection indoors if I've got enough room. So yeah, those little tiny view cameras from the 50s are actually quite awesome, and if you do come across any and they're relatively inexpensive, like the one I found, 30 odd quid that one, I could have picked that one up. I've already got one, thanks Neil. Snap it up and use it, because they are pretty cool, and you know, and also it's going to somebody else like yourselves that are going to look after it, rather than someone find it at some point, drill a hole in it and stick a lamp in there. I can't stand seeing that. Looks creative, but those cameras probably can live on in the right hands. But as you can see, the photographs that I took, I think they're brilliant little cameras to just walk around with, and even if you want to get into street photography, you know, the lenses ain't as good as the lenses that are today, or the lenses of the 80s and 90s. I wouldn't say, some of them might be, but in my experience they're not. But they are what they are, you know, they're creating their own little unique look, like Pinhole, like Holga and other cameras. So I quite enjoy shooting them, and if you can snap one up at a decent price, do so. If you can't afford the big SLRs and all that stuff, try and grab one of these, they're pretty cool. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video shooting the Zeiss Ikon Contina. I keep getting that wrong. I'll catch you next time. So I'm down at Sandown Airport today, and I've got a scooter rally going on. Remember the mopeds or the... So I'm down at Sandown Airport today, and they've got a scooter rally going on, and I've come here to take some photographs of the boys with their scooters using this old Zeiss, fucking hell.